two men try and fish. There's an old guy and a younger guy. And the younger guy goes out and he casts 1,000 times into the pond or into the river, and he maybe catches 100 fish or so. Now, the old man, the wise man, he goes out to the river and he sets up a net. And he comes back and he leaves it overnight, and he comes back the next day and he collects the net and he comes back to 900 fish. Now, the reason the old man, the wise man, whatever you want to call him, the reason why he caught more fish is strictly because he set things in place, he positioned himself accordingly, and he was able to position himself to where everything came to him. He put in that initial investment, he put in that extra work, that extra percentage that pushed the needle, and he was able to yield and garner a bigger return on investment than the young, stupid, ignorant, naive guy, whatever you want to call him. In life, especially in business, you don't want to be the cheetah that chases after the gazelle for, 75 miles an hour for 30 seconds, and all of a sudden it gets tired and it's starving for the rest of the night. You want to be the spider that, chills in the corner and builds a web for, a week straight. And then that web right there is going to feed him for the next year. Okay? Most people fail to position themselves accordingly. And not only do they fail to position themselves, but they fail to identify what is high leverage and what is not. If you don't know who I am, hope you guys are liking the new setting. But yeah, it's almost midnight in Los Angeles. I have a cup of coffee and I still have to hit the gym today because we stay dialed. You know how we do it. But I'm going to do another sit down video, kind of chat to you guys. If you don't know who I am, I'm 17 years old. I dropped out of high school at 16. And I've been able to achieve, financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom, whatever you want to call it. Making just under $70,000 a month from my multiple businesses. I do e-commerce, info products, and then info products basically consist of a community and then coaching as well. But yeah, I want you guys to understand when it comes to just life in general, right? Like nobody really has it figured out. Like that's what I've realized, especially just like meeting people and just like talking to people. I guess the more people you do, the more people talk to you, the more inputs you take in, you really realize nobody really has anything figured out. Nobody actually has like their head on a swivel. Nobody's, there's not going to be like one person that has everything fully figured out. Because at the end of the day, right, like everyone only has one life. Like even if you look at your parents, right, us growing up, we always go to our parents for answers and, why this, why that, why this, why that. And it's their first time living too. And most people fail to take that into account. And nobody has it figured out, not even me, and a lot of your favorite guys that you probably watch, they don't have it figured out either. But that's just the name of the game. You're never going to have it figured out. The meaning of life is just it's a journey to, travel and eventually figure it out. Hopefully. Right. I would say the best kind of realization that I've had recently is falling in love with the input opposed to the output. So too much of you guys are focused on the $10,000 a month. You're focused on strictly that numerical financial, that financial incentive, that financial related goal. Everything you do is correlated to this X goal, this X amount of money that you want to make. And opposed to falling in love with the output, you want to fall in love with the input. Now, what do I mean by that, right? So recently, I'm sure you guys have been seeing, I very much so held off for a while on spending money and, doing cool things, staying in cool places, whatever. And recently I've kind of been doing a little bit of it and showing that more on social media, especially YouTube. And one thing I've realized is, especially after I started, enjoying certain pleasures in life, I lost specific drive vacuums. And I understand that no matter where you're at in life, everyone's still working towards something, whether it be, $1,000 a month or $1 million a month. You still have to be just you have to be tied and motivated strictly by the input. You don't want to look at the output Because the moment you hit the output, then you're going to get complacent. You're going to fall back and return to that previous identity of yourself that obviously didn't garner any return. So when I say focus on the output, the best kind of easiest, simplest way to put it would be focus on the journey, whatever. And that's very much so true. Let me move my mic, sorry. People really fail to focus on the journey. They fail to fall in love with the process. And that's just the name of the game. But I've really realized that, especially in the past 3-4 months, is just falling in love with, I get more fulfillment from waking up early every day, hitting the gym, praying, reading the Bible every morning, things of that nature than, making like $10,000 in a day. I just get more fulfillment from putting in those inputs. And the more I fall in love with putting in those inputs, the more output I get, which is the good part. Like if you're only solely focused on the output or that monetary goal, you're not necessarily focused on putting in the inputs. So you're in this cycle, this hamster wheel of putting in the inputs, getting the outputs, and then falling back and losing the inputs. And then you're just going back between those three over and over and over. And the moment you disassociate yourself with the output and fall in love with the input, and regardless of how much of said output you're getting, you still focus on the input, then you're going to be exponentially more successful. You're never tired when you're winning. That's what I've realized. And that's why I see most people quit. I had a coaching client of mine, one of the first actually to just quit on me. Like just go completely ghost, just give up on everything, delete the accounts, whatever. And at the end of the day, like I understand it, like I understand it. That's just the name of the game. People are going to quit. People are stuck in what I like. It's like a gray area in life. You're not successful enough to talk to the people and hang out with the people you want to hang out with, but you're not, you're still working on outgrowing your old friends, and you don't want to, I guess, associate with those people from your hometown. And you're stuck in this like little gray area, this little period in life to where you're not only alone, but you're still working out on how to get out of the rut and actually find success. And the people that actually see success are never unmotivated, right? You're never tired when you're winning. That's the best way to explain it. The moment you get that sale, the moment you get that first client, that first little bit of proof of concept of, oh, wow, I can actually make a shit ton of money from the internet. That's when you have all the motivation you need and you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And even me, like 17, cleared over $1 million, it's still pushing. Like I don't care. I'm just still going and going and going and going and going and going and going. And that's really what I've realized when it comes to just, I guess like every hyper-achieving individual out there, billionaire or not, they always have that devil on their shoulder saying you're not good enough, which is why they keep pushing for more. It's never enough. And especially kind of like when I feel like it's a life experience thing, right? And obviously being 17, people undermine me strictly due to my age. But I would argue personally that I have had more life experience than most people, age or not, 40 years old, 60 years old. Even if you're 60, you work a desk job for 40 years. At the end of the day, I would argue I've had more life experience because you've been doing the same thing for 20 years or 40 years, and I've been doing different things every single day. I have lost complete concept of time. I don't know what day of the week it is. It's like 12. Okay, it's Tuesday. But I remember my buddy was leaving the house the other day. I'm like, yo, can you ask, like, what day of the week is it? And he's like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? He's like, no way you're asking me that question right now. And I was like, bro, please just don't like flame me. Just answer me. And he's like, it's fucking Tuesday. I'm like, all right, thank you, man. And I realized, I was like, geez, dude, people are so tied to, it's not about making $1 million a year at a corporate job. It's about making, $50K, $100K a month just online, having that full freedom, So I got to take a sip of my coffee because I still got to work out after this. But like I said, you want to be the spider. You don't want to be the cheetah, the person that's just chasing quick stuff. Nothing. If it was easy, then everybody would do it at the end of the day. And just a little longer, brother. I'm still recording, just a little longer. Oh yeah, no, you're good. Next thing I kind of want to cover is just like beliefs, right? The thing about beliefs, especially belief systems is like something we cover on this channel. My personal, I guess, philosophy is making money is like 80% mindset, maybe even 95% mindset, because you're becoming he who can, right? A man who has a why can bear any how, right? That's a Nietzsche quote. Basically, if you have a reason to do something, you're going to do everything, right? You're going to do everything you can to possibly get that goal. You need to obsess over this goal. And that's kind of what I've done. As far as, especially what I've realized is I had somebody say, oh, in my community, they go, hey, yeah, I want to go to the gym. I go like 3 times a week, but, I want to go 5. I'm like, no. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, no, you do everything as much as you want to. You want to go 5? You don't really want to go 5. If you really wanted to go 5 times a week, then you would go 5 times a week. If you really wanted to read an hour a day, then you'd make the fucking time to read an hour a day. It's people do everything exactly as much as they want to, and they're too comfortable. People are too comfortable. Every single human being, psychologically and fundamentally, has a baseline standard. They have a baseline standard on, you don't achieve your goals, you achieve your standards, right? So you have a baseline standard on, if you were to drop below it, it'd be like laying you down on a bed of hot coals because you'd have to jump up. Now, this baseline standard, if you were to drop below it, you'd go into survival mode. Now, for example, some people, it differs from person to person. Some people it's, maybe losing a job, maybe at least being in college, maybe it's even being homeless for some people. And there's some people's baseline standards that are so low that even being homeless and addicted to drugs, they're still not going to go into survival mode. Henceforth, why you have, people on the streets who like it and don't want to get off. So in order to reach that next level, as far as standards go, you need to increase your standards. You need to increase your baseline, because if your baseline standard was higher than where you are at right now, then you would be pushing for more. You would be in survival mode to hit 10, 20, 30K a month. Does that make sense? Like if you were making, let's say, $30,000 a month for 20 years, that's your new standard. If you were to drop below that, then you'd be freaking out, right? Because you have this and you have this thing you got to pay and responsibilities for people around you, and people need to increase their standards. The reason you're not pushing for more is because you're too comfortable with your current position in life as an individual, and you fail to realize that doesn't matter if you want to achieve more. If you truly wanted to achieve more, you would be. Okay? That's the end of the day. Let me ask you this. Do you think you can hit 20, 30K a month? Do you think you can right now, as your current state of self, as an individual of identity? Do you think yourself right now could hit 10, 20, 30K a month? If the answer is yes, then you're wrong. Because if you could be, then you would be. If you had the capabilities as your current self right now to make $10,000 a month, then you would be. I'm not saying you can't in the future, and I'm not saying you can't adopt that identity or become that individual. I'm not saying you can't become he who can. But your current self is not capable of doing that, because if you were capable, then you would be. And that's a harsh reality. But another thing, kind of going back to belief systems, is comforting beliefs. People tend to reassure, right? If you were to, the thing about beliefs is that if you believe something, you are going to behave as if it is true. I'll repeat that. If you believe something, you are going to behave as if it is true. So if you believe that, it's cold outside because you checked your phone app, like the weather app on your phone, now, regardless of if you've been outside or not, you're going to go to your closet, you're going to grab a jacket, you're going to put it on, and you're going to walk outside. Without having the actual personal experience of it being cold, you have made the decision by checking said phone and going outside with a jacket. Okay? You're going to behave as something. If you believe something, you're going to behave as if it is true. If you think this whole online money making stuff is a sham and it's not real, then you're not going to make money from it. Okay? You need to use what's called first principle reasoning, break things down to their fundamental whys, and crush them at the root. You have a limiting belief? Why? Why? Okay? Oh, I don't think I can work hard, or I've always been a lazy person. Why? You have to break it down for its fundamental why. You're a lazy person. Why? Because somebody in a position of authority told you 12 years ago, your teacher. Why did she say that? Because she wasn't. So you're basically basing your entire negative characteristic as an individual based off something that somebody told you 12 years ago, you're basically, and that's it's a hard thing to overcome, because a lot of people are tied to their parents' fundamental beliefs. And depending on who your parents are, this is why wealthy people tend to stay wealthy, like the children of wealthy people. That's strictly because they have adopted negative belief systems and limiting beliefs and an identity of somebody who can't make money, because that has been passed down by their parents. You look at every single person who came from a poor environment, they're nothing like their parents. Now, sure, they might have integrity, they might have this, they might have that, which are obviously fantastic characteristics, but certain characteristics don't make you money. Okay, I always say this, but there's a difference between being cheap and being broke. Okay, being broke is okay, being cheap is not. If you're not willing to spend $100 that's going to make you more money in the long run, then you deserve to stay broke. So that kind of relates into opportunity cost, right? So what is opportunity cost? Opportunity cost is basically how much something would cost you an opportunity, right? So a good example is Bitcoin. If you didn't buy Bitcoin, let's say everybody watching this probably hasn't bought Bitcoin in 2013. So since none of us bought Bitcoin in 2013, it has costed us roughly $60,000 of opportunity cost, right? If you were to, let's say an iPhone, let's say this iPhone was on sale. At the end of the day, let's say it was $10 and now it's $1,000 and it was only available for $10 for 24 hours. That 24 hours I didn't buy this cost me $990 of opportunity cost. You can't be looking at the upfront cost of things. You need to look at how much it would cost you an opportunity and return and leverage over the next 1 to 5 years. There's a difference between being rich and thinking wealthy, okay? Here's a good story. In wealthy, you got to think long term, okay? Here's a good story. A guy, there's a Chinese village, and there's an old man, and his son goes out and he finds a horse, and he brings the horse back, and everybody in the village is clapping for him. They're like, "Oh wow, congratulations! You found a horse. That's fantastic." And then, son's riding the horse, falls off, breaks both of his arms. Everyone's like, "Oh no, that's the worst thing ever. That's terrible." And then next day, army comes, they start drafting a bunch of young men, and everyone's like, he didn't get drafted because his arms were broken. Everybody's like, "Oh wow, that's fantastic, amazing." The moral of the story is, things are only good or bad in relation to the time horizon in which you view them. So if you can look at any situation or anybody's life or any story and cut it out at a certain moment and either make the conclusion this was either a positive or a negative. But at the end of the day, life goes on. And you can't look at anybody or anything that happens to you and definitively identify if it is a good or a bad thing. You don't know, because things are only good or bad in relation to the time frame in which you view them. Does that make sense? So I've had a lot of bad stuff happen to me. I've had to grow up pretty fast, right? As one in my position would have to. And I look at every negative thing that has happened to me throughout my entire journey, and sure, it's bad, but it has had a net positive, because, and I'm probably going to have bad stuff. I have bad stuff happen to me all the time, and I have good things happen to me all the time, but I remain stoic about the situation, and I always say, this too shall pass. And that's the name of the game, guys. That's life. You can't look at things as a definitive good or bad. You have to just give it time, because with time, you really break life down to its fundament, because that's really what life is, guys. Life is just time. A lot of business and a lot of, making money is just understanding, hey, if I identify, inputs, if I do X input, I'm going to get X output. So all I have to do is do more of X input, and I will get more of X output. Now, you have to break down how many of these are good inputs and how many of these are bad inputs. So break it down, right? Like, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis that are good inputs that are going to push the needle in your business and in turn make you more money? Scale, help you get more, right? Help you do bigger things and better things. You identify that input and then you just do more of it, right? At the end of the day, that's all it is. If you guys think I have some cracked framework I follow, or I know something you like, I clearly know stuff you don't, but that's why I'm doing this video. I'm sharing it with you. But there's not some cracked framework. There's not some golden nugget of, ooh, I just have to keep researching and doing this until I find. No, you just have to do it long enough, because your income is capped in accordance to the complexity of problems that you can solve. Okay, your depth of understanding is directly correlated to your income. So if you try something out and you strictly learn something for 5 months, you have 5 months of experience. Now, you're not going to be paid. You're going to be paid as much as somebody who has 5 months of experience in that facet of business or life or expertise. But if somebody sticks to that for 5 years, they're going to be paid like somebody who has 5 years of expertise. Now, the reason why most people fail in business, and especially online business, is because they have that wrong notion that new is better. New is not better. Better is better. Just because a business model is new doesn't make it better. Your new logo is not going to make you more money. Your new fucking banner on your website's not going to make you more money. Okay? Quit fucking changing your website. Get to fucking doing outreach. Okay? Quit changing products. Do fucking more organic. Do more ads. Right? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, people think that just because something is new, it's better. It's iPhones. New iPhones come out every year, and people buy them. People line up to buy them. I get a new iPhone every 2 years. I actually got to get a new one. I have the 14 Pro. But people get new iPhones all the time because it's called novelty bias, right? It's a cognitive bias, and people think that just because something is new, it is better or it is more valuable, and that is simply not the case. You just need to identify, what are these simple inputs that I do every single day, and how can I do them at higher scale? How could I just do more of these? And if I do X inputs, like let's say if I do, X input once, and that garners me $100. Can I make the time, force myself to have the time, or outsource the input to where I can do 100 of these a day, and then in turn make 100X of $100? Does that make sense? So you need to just simply identify, what am I doing on a day-to-day basis that is going to push the needle the furthest, and how can I do more of these? People are stuck. The biggest thing that I've realized is, especially in business, is just being a high leverage individual, is being a high leverage person and saving my time. And the leverage in general, the best way I like to put it is lowest input, highest output. Now, a good example, I can meditate in my room for 30 minutes, or I can meditate outside in shorts or underwear with the sun beating down on me, listening to 432 hertz audio. And that is basically doing 3 things, knocking 3 birds out with 1 stone, being high leverage. Okay, another example, repurposing content, doing a podcast, great for exposing your personal brand, great for doing branding or just getting short form clips, repurposing that podcast into YouTube clips, repurposing that podcast into short form videos. That's high leverage. So that kind of just plays into your business overall. And you need to look at everything from a position of leverage. How can I leverage this in the future? How can I leverage this today, next week, next month, next year, etc.? I would recommend everybody starting a personal brand, doing something along the lines of documenting your journey, documenting where you're at now. It is never too late. Okay, let me tell you something. Let me tell you guys something. The best time to plant a tree would have been 10 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today. Does that make sense? It is the best time to start is now. Raw action just trumps any sort of planning. You can just plan as much as you want. Once you have enough information to make a decision, then you need to make it, right? If you're going to jump off a cliff, okay. I think a bug just flew into the bug zapper. But if you're going to jump off a cliff and you throw a rock in the pond to measure the depth, you can only throw the fucking rock in there 2 times, 3 times. But by the 4th and 5th time, you already know how deep the pond is, so either make the decision, dump or don't jump. You have the information, so make it. You throwing the rock in anymore is just you delaying the action, and that's where most of you guys are at in business and life, etc. You guys have the information to make the decision. You know what you need to do, so just fucking make it. Does that make sense? Without further ado, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. if you want to watch, I'll link 2 YouTube videos down below. A case study of a store, the full product, creative everything of a store that is, I believe at the time was at $70,000 a month, and now it's at $100,000 a month. Fully organic, by the way, 100 million views on Instagram Reels. And a client interview I did with a 16-year-old client of mine who owns that store, is doing $100,000 a month. He just bought himself a 2024 M4 competition. Interior, bloody guts. Ooh, that thing's nice. And I will link down my community, my school community, if you guys are interested in joining that. And I guess a call to book if you want to work one-on-one with me. But yeah, I mean, if you enjoy what I said, and if you don't want to give me money, it's all chill. You can just drop a sub, maybe watch my other YouTube videos, drop a like and maybe a comment if you're feeling a little cheeky. But yeah, I mean, I thank you guys for giving me your time. I know it's valuable, and I know in this attention economy, it's rough to figure out who you want to allocate your attention to. So I very much so appreciate that being me. And I try to provide you guys with as much value as I physically can. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have an absolute fantastic day. And remember, guys, stay blessed.